If you ask any real estate investor what their favorite books are, you're probably going to get a different answer because everybody gets different things out of things. Hi, I'm Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers. This is Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. We're going to go through what we believe to be the best books for real estate investors. Ian and I collaborate a lot of stuff, and in essence, we have, for the most part, the same reading list. So we figured we'd share that with you of what we believe are the best business books that we have read over the years inside our business. So let's start with the first one, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What were some of the big takeaways that you had from that?
Yeah, man, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like this is without a doubt is definitely going to be in everybody's top 5 if you're a real estate investor of what book to read. For me, when I first read it, it was really getting into the mindset of owning assets and taking away our liabilities. For as it's progressed, the way I view it now is how can we take any asset that we have or any liability and turn it into an asset, or any asset that we have not allow it to become a liability. And that's really my big takeaway from Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, I think the book Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of allows you and gives you permission to be an entrepreneur and also to, in essence, buy real estate. When I say buy real estate, not just a primary residence, but an actual investment property, an income producing property. I learned a lot about how passive investing works and passive cash flow works. And in essence, becoming financially free when you have enough assets that are passively covering all of your liabilities. So obviously a great one. And I think, everybody listening and watching is going to be a little bit surprised because a lot of these other books might not have anything to do with real estate in general, but there's still key takeaways for that inside our businesses. Next one, The Snowball, Warren Buffett, arguably my favorite book of all time. It's kind of a long read. I think on Audible, it was like 30 or 40 hours, but it's one of those that like it just sticks with you, man. It's awesome. And think about what a snowball is in general, right? A snowball typically starts small, and then as you push it down a hill, it increases in momentum, and it increases in speed, and it increases in width. And that's so true with real estate investing in general, or business building in general. In essence, it just grows until you get to a point where it's kind of unstoppable. If you have lots of rental properties and there's just checks coming in all the time, and it's a real good thing, and it's very relatable. Even though most of Warren Buffett's assets are businesses, and not necessarily real estate, it goes a long way. And also just the impact of compound interest. I love compound interest and how it works. And I have a little nerdy calculator on my phone, which is a compound interest calculator. And it works just like a snowball. Like it works on autopilot, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, for me, I have 3 takeaways. Number one, the fact that when you invest, you are getting in potentially at what other people feared to be the worst time ever. Inevitably, we got it in real estate in 2012. Everybody else had trauma from 2008, allowed us to invest. In COVID, people got scared because it reminded them of 2008. People checked up. We continued to purchase. Warren Buffett did the same thing over his investing careers, and it was able for us to apply our identities as firefighters when people are running out, allowing us to run in and go buy properties. Number 2 is the ability to stand the test of time. Warren Buffett's income comes from, and this book is almost 40, 50 hours long. The reason it's so long is the guy's been in business for so long that it allows him to stand the test of time. He's able to generate income. He's able to withstand the good, the bad, the ugly. Most people, when there's a little bit of ugly, they run out. Warren Buffett stays in. He talks about the Lehman Brothers crisis when he got involved in that and how it almost took him out. But again, he stood the test of time. He had long-standing cash flowing assets that bailed him out. And then finally, the snowball. That is, I believe, the most important part of this book and why it's called the snowball, right? Once that snowball gets rolling down the hill, you can't stop it. Something breaks off like a Lehman Brothers. Okay, you go back in. You have other stuff to keep that ball rolling down the hill. You find something that's not working for you correctly. You continue to roll it down the hill, and then eventually it gets filled back in, and it turns back in to a ball and keeps rolling down the hill.
If you like this style of content, do us a favor and smash that like button. Even better, subscribe to the channel and we'll keep this content coming. So next on the list would be Am I Being Too Subtle by Sam Zell. Sam passed away recently, but everything that came out of his mouth, like after I learned about Sam several years ago, was just spot on. And he was a killer. And you know, Ian and I both own commercial real estate. Ian owns and operates a little bit more than I do. So, it's very easy to resonate with Sam. I think if you own commercial real estate in general, of just how it works and his work ethic and his background, he's just a straight killer in everything. And I feel like a lot of this book is how he was able to find just bargain basement projects and properties through lots of different market cycles. He also talks about how market cycles happen and how you know unfortunately the banks and the institution is responsible for a lot of the the market booms and busts just based on where they're pricing the cost of capital and providing the cost of capital. But my biggest takeaway for this book was Sam had in essence a core small operation of employees and executives that worked with him. It was kind of like a family office, kind of like a family fund that he ran, and he did it out of a small modest office with just a few employees. And he was able in essence to become a billionaire and own just billions of dollars of businesses in real estate, even though he had a small core operation. That didn't mean that inside a building or inside a business there wasn't C-level executives and property managers and tons of other people, but he wasn't responsible for that. He was responsible for just kind of his small core team that in essence acquired lots of real estate along the way. And is something that I resonated with a lot.
Yeah, this is arguably my favorite book in this list of five that we're going through. Sam Zell is an absolute, to me, the number one real estate investor that was out there. He was at the forefront of what he was doing. I'd say the number one takeaway or number one point that resonates with me from this book is how he talked about he had $1 billion of real estate and literally couldn't make payroll that coming Friday. He had no clue how he was going to make payroll coming up, even though he was buying cash flow assets. So that was a really good point. Also, he was one of the first people to ever create a REIT. And hearing that story from this book, it really, just reminds you to keep going all in on what you're doing, and eventually you're going to create something absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So next on the list is the Millionaire Fastlane. MJ DeMarco. And Ian, I don't even know if you read this book, but I read it, and I think that a lot of people would look at it and think that it's kind of cheesy and corny. The tagline's crack the code to wealth and live rich for a lifetime. And there's lots of books like this out there. But I, still got lots of takeaways from it. I still thought it was great. And one of the biggest takeaways that I think I got is understanding the importance, especially early on, how to make the biggest return on your time, on your work, and on your money, most importantly. And you hear someone that says, "Oh yeah, I'm making a 10% return on my portfolio." Well, what does that equate to? So that means that every $100,000 you have invested, you're making $10,000 a year. Like, don't get me wrong, as a passive investment inside your portfolio, like that's not a bad return. But like if you only have $100,000 in your name and you're only turning that into $10,000 a year, like that's not a lot of money, right? So in essence, you need to be able to make significantly higher rates of return on everything in order to show that, right? Like, hey, great, in 50 years or 60 years you'll be able to make real money and you'll be able to retire. The point is we want to all do this quick. We want to be making hundreds of percent on our capital and our time, hundreds and hundreds of percent return. And I know that sounds unreasonable, and maybe as a passive investment it's unreasonable, but as an active investment it shouldn't be at all. Let's equate this to real estate investing. You buy a property for $100,000, let's just say, and you put up 20,000 of your own money into that thing, right? And you flip it and you make a $60,000 profit. Well, you just tripled your return. You got a 300% rate of return on your money, right? And like, honestly, that's even a conservative setup. There's lots of transactions that Ian and I have been involved in, and we've had very little money out of our own pocket or minimal money out of our own pocket compared to the whole thing with bank debt and private loans and things like that. And it turns into 6-figure, 7-figure types of transactions over time, that in essence turns into whatever your percent return. And some of these are infinite percent returns, right? Like we invested as a limited partner in a self-storage portfolio that Ian had, and like a year later we got our original investment back, and then we still made returns over and over and over and over and over and over. That's an infinite investment, right? Because there's no capital still out there. So like that's kind of the way you have to think. I get it. Everyone wants a good, solid, safe rate of return, but you're in the growth phase. You're in the preservation of wealth stage. Depends on where you're at, right? If you've got, $20 million and you're just trying to preserve your wealth and live off that passively, you can get a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% return. And that's great, right? And potentially that will continue to go forever if it's safe. But like if you're early on in life, or if you need to really create massive wealth, like you need to go out there and try to get much bigger rates of return on your time and your money in order to do so.
Yeah. And I read this book. I think he had 2 or 3 other books all around the same time. So it was really a little hard for me to remember, but you talking about the velocity, the true velocity of capital is really what I take away from this book. And it reminds me that as fast as you can get your money back and have infinite returns, great. You need to take a little bit of risk. You need to do it in the correct and earn a return on your capital and keep it moving. So 100% a great book.
Yeah. So a recent book that Ian and I both read that I can't believe we hadn't read earlier was Who Not How. And, I mean, there's so many takeaways from it, right? All of us as business owners or investors or creators or visionaries, like there's lots of different stuff that internally, we want to be doing on a regular basis, and potentially, we just are saying, oh, we don't have the time, or we don't have this, or we don't have that. And in essence, imagine this in a perfect world where, you just come up with an idea and you find someone to implement it. You come up with another idea, you find someone to implement it, right? Over and over and over and over. And like the book gives you a lot of good ideas, like practical, real ideas of how to actually implement them to make it work. And that was huge because as I feel like a lot of the successful people I know, there's two sides of them. There's two sides. The one side is the guys that really are just digging ditches every day and just working their asses off every day. And I think that's both of us right now, constantly doing stuff, growing. And in essence, we use the formula where it's we learn it, we implement it, and then we potentially have somebody else do it over time. But we're learning it. Like people ask me all the time, like, hey, how do I hire this particular trade? And I'm like, I think you got to do it yourself and learn it and be an expert, and then offset that to somebody else. So that book helped me with that. But there's other sides of people where I think that they're kind of just like, hey, I don't care how it gets done, just figure it out type of thing. And they're learn it. Like, oh, I need to learn Facebook ads for my business. Like my partner Chris and I, we just learned it ourselves. And then, we hired someone after we figured we were pretty proficient at it. If how we wanted it. Other people just hire people to do those things. And I don't know which one's right or wrong, but it's just kind of interesting side of it. So a lot of good takeaways on this book. Ian, you're muted. Technical difficulties. That's why we do these videos We
I was
do
about
this.
to say, I'm about to give you a real life example. I'm having issues technically, even though I had someone help me set up my studio, but I'm still tinkering with it, therefore giving me, and it's funny that in this video, this is what we're talking about. I'm having a real life technical difficulty issue that I can't seem to resolve while we're doing this. But that's the point of who, not how. I know who I can call in my Rolodex to come fix this now, which I'm going to do. So I apologize on my end, but who, not how is a favorite of mine. It is very simple that you should go in in your business immediately, and that's why we do these videos. So I apologize for any technical difficulties that we have. Take it home, Jason. You take it home.
So we have a bonus book since Ian couldn't even finish this 15-minute YouTube video with it. So bonus book. I'll just share mine ourselves since Ian's having technical difficulties with his audio. If you're watching this, The Psychology of Money. When we were making this list of best business books for real estate investors, I don't even know why we didn't think about this, but this book's probably the best, especially for real estate investors, mostly because, and like some of the biggest takeaways is like, I have a lot of past experiences that Ian doesn't have, and I act on those. And Ian has a lot of past experiences that I don't have, and he acts on those separately, just based on what we've seen. I've seen the crash of 2007, 2008, right? So, I had money in deals on that. I didn't lose money during that time, but like I was actively investing at that time. So I saw kind of, what happened. You better believe that like if you do a bad deal, you learn from it, right? You learn from it and you realize you're not going to do that anymore. If you look inside our real estate lending portfolio, I mean, I've done 3,500 loans. You don't think that I can kind of eye up a deal and determine if it's going to be a winner or a loser? Like, I just know that from experience. So like the psychology of money is in essence, so many different case studies and so many different examples of that. I mean, I can't even do that book justice and explaining everything that's in it because it's so good. The subtitle is Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness. And it's so true. It's extremely well written. I would certainly, add that to your immediate reading list.
If I can get this out before I have more technical issues, but either way, it is reiteration Warren Buffett's ideas and book of continuing to do what you need to do to execute as a high level real estate investor or business investor and go out and earn a return. Even though other people might be running out the door, you might be running in. People are running in, you might be selling and capitalizing. And talks about it really puts a lot of these books together. Velocity of capital, psychology of money, building a snowball. Then once you have the time freedom to do what you want to do, you've used the who, not how principles. I really think the psychology of the money, Morgan Housel, then wasn't he a PhD or something? Like I forget what he was in, but it's such a well-written book. It is not super high level. It's not super low level. It's right in the mid tier of what you need. And honestly, audiobook was really good. And he walked through a lot of real life examples of how he was able to utilize his capital and move it through. So those were a few of our favorite books. There's one more bonus book that I got behind me if I have enough time, but there it is. Atlas Shrugged, for those that is my bonus favorite book. And I just had to throw that in here because I finally got my mic to work and I'm going to go utilize Who Not How and get this microphone fixed so we can do more fun videos like this.
And one quick tip that I heard an extremely successful person say in the past is he doesn't read a lot of books. He reads the same books a lot of times, over and over and over. Psychology of Money is definitely one that I've read multiple times. And as we talk about this, there's other really, really good books inside the space. But let's start with that. We'll do a follow-up in the future. Remember, everybody's in a different place inside your life and your business. So whatever the lowest hanging fruit is in today, work on that, concentrate on that. I hope you guys like this content. Ian and I have a lot of fun doing it, assuming, we have no technical difficulties, but we really, really, really like doing this these short YouTube series. So we'll keep them coming. If you guys keep liking them, we promise we'll keep
If you
doing
like this style of content, do us a favor and smash that like button. Even better, subscribe to the channel and we'll keep this content coming.